Hey everybody, welcome to Dying Laughing. I am your host, your grief guru, Jessimae Peluso. I am here in my sister's garage because trauma echoes louder here. The sound of trauma echoes louder in your sister's garage. So I'm making this my studio for the time being while I am back on the East Coast. In this episode, we're still going along the stages of grief. This episode is about pain and guilt. So much fun! So much fun. We've all felt it. And a lot of people live their lives under the guilt shroud. They stay feeling guilty and they let that drive their life. You know, it's the part where you cry over a dead parent and somehow make it about how you weren't a good enough daughter or a good enough son while binge eating Doritos in the shower. Guilt will eat you alive. And a lot of people have that as their driving emotion throughout life, and it's unnecessary, but also necessary. It is a necessary part of the grieving process. It'll find you regardless if you want it to or not. And I'm here to make it funny. And if you guys want to submit questions to the podcast, please do that. JessimaePelusocomedy@gmail.com and give us a call, 513-916-0930, to have your questions, comments, or concerns shared on the podcast. And make sure you share this video. Click thumbs up. Like it, share it with your friends who might be going through some form of grief or loss and need a little bit of uplifting. I am the one to lift you up. I am that silly grief guru who's going to help you guys get through horrible parts of your life. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everybody who listens every week. I couldn't do it without you. At the end of the podcast, we will be answering a few submissions from fans. I asked everybody on my Instagram, what are you currently feeling guilty about, big or small? And you guys submitted that, and it was great. Well, not great. Guilt isn't great. It's not something I would call great, but I appreciate you guys submitting. And we get into this episode about pain and guilt being one of the stages of grief that I think people linger in. This stage has a way of sinking its claws into you. It has a way of sort of wrapping you up, and if you don't get some tools or get yourself out of it or not overthink it so much, you really get lost in that deep emotional ache of grief. It's heartbreak in your bones. And guilt is the endless should have, could have, wouldas. It's the should have, could have, would have emotional states that keep you locked in this one area where you are in this loop of constantly trying to fix it. Did I do enough? Did I say enough? Probably not. And they're dead. So let's move on. That's what it's all about. It's all about moving on. And I think if we can sort of package the horrible part of grief into something a little bit lighter, you guys are able to experience what you need to experience, but also realize, hey, it's not that serious. It's so serious, but it's not that serious. And pain and guilt are the stage of grief where you spiral into apologizing. You apologize for walking in on your dog eating, or apologize when you bump into a mannequin in a store, and apologize to everyone for everything you've ever done because you just don't want to be a disappointment. It's that over-explaining, over-apologetic attitude that we have. And I have felt that too in life, for sure. I have felt guilt. Right now I'm sitting in front of my mother's old desk. Some of you might be able to see it if you're watching the video. Well, obviously, if you're not blind, you can see the desk. It's a wooden desk. And this was one of the things that we got from the childhood home that my sister and I grew up in and ended up selling the past year. I don't know if you follow me. If you follow me, you might have seen the fiasco of us trying to sell our childhood home and feeling all the emotions that comes with. But it feels kind of cool to be sitting in front of my mom's her desk, rather. I can't imagine the journal entries she wrote here about us. Actually, I can, because I do have her journal. Little invasive. It's a point where my sister's like, it's a little too much. You shouldn't be reading mom's journal. And I was like, well, it's funny you say that, because on January 29th, 1985, she had something to say about you. If you'd like to see, if you could point your attention to journal entry 99 of Why Did I Become a Mom? It feels kind of cool to be sitting in front of this. Special to have my mother's desk behind us. Beautiful, beautiful piece of furniture that will never be sold. But here it is in my sister's garage amidst everything else. This is what everyone's garage looks like, right? We've got disco lights behind me. There's a TV. This place is a hang. When the kids come home, it's a freaking hang. But I certainly have felt my own pain and guilt throughout all different types of losses in my life. Obviously, when we zoom out and go big and talk about the loss of either one of my parents, there was a lot of guilt around that. I felt like I should have visited more. And I feel like these emotions of pain and guilt make us feel like obsessive. I definitely felt obsessive over what was the last thing I said. I felt guilty that I don't remember. I don't remember the last thing I said to my mom or my dad. I don't remember what the last hand hold or hug or embrace was. And there's guilt around that and pain, and so much pain, like wanting to get that moment back. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. And this is a place to not dwell in. You can let that emotion come through. You can let yourself feel it, but you don't want to dwell in it. Grief is not a well, even though it can feel like it. It doesn't have to be. Emotionally, you feel lost in it, but you've got to kind of have these little places where it's just a river and it's flowing through, and you can allow yourself to walk through it, get a little wet, swear off, fuck, I got some crick water. I love when people call it a crick. That's a southern thing, I think, where someone just calls it a crick instead of a creek. There's something about that really, it captures my heart. But you got to let grief be the thing that teaches you, but also you kind of flow with, and you don't get too caught up into it. But I definitely had so much guilt and pain around not knowing what my lasts were. What were the last hugs and the last conversations we had? And, you know, the guilt of not being here enough. I definitely felt that. And that's a real thing. You know, I'm sure a lot of you have felt that, where if you live far from your parents or live in a different part of the country or world and they're sick and you can't get home to them. That was my situation. And how I use that pain and guilt now when I feel that regret, and I feel, oh, I should have stayed home sooner, more. I should have come home sooner. I should have, could have, would have. Once the should have, could have, would have start creeping in, I let them come in. I let them sit down. I even served those mofos a drink. I'm going to give you a drink. But you're going to get out of my house after that. You got to treat them like an ex. Where you're like, I wish you well, but not that much. You don't have as much access to me anymore. You don't have all this access to me. I'm going to honor you and see that you need a little conversation. You need some time and a little connection. That's cool. Other than that, honey, we're done. We're done here. But the other thing that grief and pain do for me now is they fuel me in a different way. I allow them to give me energy in different aspects of my life. Once I start to feel those emotions, I'm aware of it. This is that. Identifying what you feel really helps you process it and also have a grasp on it. Not in a way to control it, just in a way to understand what you're going through. And so once I start to feel these emotions, I identify them for what they are, and then I can then transform it into something fucking useful. Let's be real. Dwelling in your pain and guilt is not that useful. It's not. And you are no fun to be around in that scenario. Not that it's your job to be entertaining and a court jester for everyone else in their amusement. No. But it's just not a useful emotion. Give it a little bit of time, but transform it into something. Once you identify what you're going through and what you're experiencing, transform that into gratitude. Transform that into something more useful. And I say that now when I feel the should have, would have, could have. I could have come home sooner. I should have come home sooner. I would have come home sooner. I wish I would have. I feel all that for sure. That's why I've been home for a month and a half now. That's the beauty of the other side of perspective and awareness. I went through the experience of not having been home as much as I should have when both of my parents were sick, and feeling that pain and that guilt, even though it was expensive and I lived all the way across the country and it was very difficult logistically, and I have 3 dogs. There's all these aspects that make it very difficult to pick up and go wherever. It takes a lot of planning, but I still have felt guilt and pain surrounding that. And now I'm home. I'm here. I didn't have to be on the East Coast for 2 months, but I thought about it. And September kind of evolved into something different for me, where I could have gone back to California much sooner. For those of you listening, I am on the East Coast, upstate New York, where I'm from, visiting my sister. I'd only planned to be here for the month of August, but as the universe does, it changes your plans and you have to pivot and evolve. And I could have gone right back to LA, but I thought, you know what? I thought right back to when my parents were sick, and thinking about that retrospectively. And I didn't want to regret not spending as much time with my family as I could have. Even if it's throwing me out of my routine, even if it's difficult for me to get into whatever flow I need to get into for myself, I've decided to stay here because I don't want to regret not having the time with them. I ain't going to sit here and cry because I didn't cry enough. I'm going to be here and hang and be the auntie that I know I can be. And you know what? It's working. I've been here so long. My niece and nephew hate me. I'm a part of the family officially. Once your niece and nephew start treating you like they treat your parents, you're like, I made it. Looks like I'm up on the scoreboard. Looks like I'm up on the family scoreboard. So I think the key is to learn from your pain and your guilt, to learn from the things that cause you to feel those emotions, especially through the grieving process. It can teach you things. That these are the gifts that it gives us. That through that experience that you have to look at it and put it against the landscape of where you're at now. What I went through with my parents taught me to be more in the moment, more present, more available to my family now, because I know that these moments are fleeting and we never know when it's going to be our last. We don't know when it's going to be our last handheld moment, our last conversation moment, or our last moment. We don't know when that's going to be. So you've got to squeeze the juice out of it when you can. And that's why I decided to stay here. And, grief is just a wild experience for all of us. One day you're sobbing because you think you failed someone in your life, and the next you're like, well, why didn't I get them a better birthday card in 2014? Why did I say that to them in 2004? We start thinking about things that don't matter and thinking that we've failed someone and thinking that we could have done more. You couldn't have done anything more. Let me tell you, don't worry about it. If you're thinking, oh, I should have just called them back that one day, that wouldn't have happened. Or maybe if I hadn't gone, then they would have survived. Or maybe if I didn't say that thing, I would have gotten that job. Or maybe. None of that matters. That's just chatter in your brain. That's your brain trying to make sense of something that, for the most part, is pretty irrational. Life is extremely irrational. Let's be real. Living is so irrational. Life and existence is completely chaotic. It doesn't make sense. So don't try to make sense of what your experience was with whoever you lost. It's not worth it. Let it go for as much as you can. And these moments of pain and guilt are extremely relatable. Everybody feels this way. You feel guilty for surviving, and they died. Oh, it should have been me. They took my brother. It should have been me. They're dead and I'm here eating pizza and watching Bravo. It should have been me. Waste of time. And there's that pain that sneaks up in weird places out of nowhere when you're in Target holding a loofah and you just, oh God, man, I should have come home 4 weeks sooner. The lady's looking at you like, are you going to pay for that? Because you're standing in the doorway on your way out because you didn't realize you had a loofah in your hand? Because you're so preoccupied with thoughts that have hijacked your joy? When you wallow in these necessary parts of emotional life and living, grief being the stage that we're talking about, pain and guilt being a part of the stages of grief, when you're there and you wallow in it, you're out of life. You're not even living. You're not even present. It is literally pulling you out of living, like living, breathing and feeling everything and experiencing life. You're just wallowing over the would haves and the could haves. And you have guilt about how you grieve. I shouldn't be grieving this long. Why am I still sad? Why am I so angry? And you start doubting the emotions you feel instead of just letting them flow. Let them come in, give them a drink, send them the fuck home. Treat your grief emotions like you treat your family at the holidays. They come in, you're going to get a 2 to 3 course meal, maybe dessert, we're not sure. Once you finish, fork on the dang table, get your ass out. You can take some leftovers. I don't want to see you till next year. That's how you should be treating these emotions. With a little bit of hospitality, not too much that they stay overnight. There's too much pain surrounding family tension, feeling like we're not doing enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not sisterly enough. I'm not an aunt enough. None of that serves you as a sister or an aunt. You're just peeling yourself away from the moment of being able to exist as that person you think you're not good enough existing as. And I want to get to the questions that people asked or submissions that fans sent in when I asked people what they're currently feeling guilty about, big or small, because this is such a relatable topic outside of grief, but it is still under the umbrella of grief. I asked, what's something that you still feel guilty about, big or small, on Threads? Someone said something very simple, and I thought I could really relate to this, and I think you guys can too. Explaining past a no. No is a full sentence. Couldn't agree more. It's such a big practice in confidence and also self-worth to say no and let it sit. And I constantly have to check myself when I'm sending emails or text messages to not send a 3 or 4 sentence explanation why I said no. I think, especially as women, I can't speak for men, we feel like we should explain ourselves because how dare we say no to anyone? Who do we think we are? So when it comes to saying a no, just drop that no. Drop it like a bomb. Just drop it. Set it and forget it. No. It might be harder as a parent because your kids are so inquisitive and precocious. They need to know everything. But then again, it's all an energy, babe. It's all a vibe. What's your vibe? I'm all about the vibe tribe. Be 100% confident with your vibe. Confident with that no. If there's a little bit of a no, if you fuck up your tone when you say no to a kid, they know. They know. They sniff it out. They sniff it out in that one syllable sentence. No. They know if it's a no or not. I know because as a kid, all my dad's no's I turned into yeses. Sure did. Because my dad was not confident in telling me no because I was his youngest child. He didn't have the heart to tell me no, and I knew that. So I knew every time that mofo tried to sneak out a no, I'd be like, that's so cute. Oh, Dad, look at you trying to discipline me. How cute. Give me the car keys. I'm about to go on a 4-hour tour in your vehicle and pick up all my friends after you told me no. True story. If you know, you know. If you're an OG, you know the story. Took my dad's car for a joyride for 3 hours, way before I had my license. After it was a hard no. Okay, Joe. See you on the other side, buddy. Pay for my ticket, too. I'm coming around the block and there's a couple cops on my 6. Can you take care of this, Joe? I got to go upstairs and watch TGIF. TGI Fridays is on. Take care of this cop situation. Toss him the keys and go upstairs and crack a beer. He's going to tell me no. So I get it. No as a full sentence is a power move. Whether you're a parent, a kid, a CEO of a company, the employee of a company, learning how to say no confidently will get you so many more yeses. It is a skill. So you should practice saying no without explaining why. That's a big one. I like that one. Somebody else said, I once had a job with advanced nutrients. Then I didn't have a job with advanced nutrients. And I'm the only asshole to blame for yelling at my human resources manager like a wild jerk. Also, I feel guilty. It's taken me over 20 years to finish school. Something almost kind of done with something great. Finally, almost kind of done with something great. I also yelled at my dog really badly for chasing a cat. I don't think those cats will be back until they're older. That's a lot of guilt going on there. We all harbor so much guilt. We all carry it. I think it's one of the heaviest things that humans carry around and they don't even realize it. And it comes out in ways, if you listen to people talk, you can understand pretty quickly what they feel guilty about and where they pride themselves and where they feel like they aren't being enough. A lot of the times it's not being a good enough parent, not being a good enough husband or wife or whatever you think your role is in life. A lot of us feel guilt around not fulfilling that role in a way we think we should or a way we think we're being judged to fulfill. And I don't know about advanced nutrients. It sounds like you yelled at your human resources manager. Maybe they were a jerk. You said you yelled at them like a wild jerk. Maybe they were a jerk. I'm not condoning you yelling at them, although I do think it's hilarious that the one person you chose to yell at your job was the one person who could severely get you fired. Like literally the person that everyone goes to for issues you chose to yell at. If you're going to do it right. If you're going to lose your shit on the HR manager. 100%. At least you go hard. At least you're 100% going hard. And feeling guilty about taking 20 years to finish school, I'm a firm believer in your own personal timing. And this is coming from someone who has her own timing in life. You know, I think that 20 years to finish school, you're finishing school though. Who cares if it took you 20 years? Is it a little long? Sure. You could be 2 different types of doctors by now. I don't know what type of school it is. Look, it depends on the type of school before I start talking. If this is like cosmetology school, I'm worried. I'm concerned. If this is a 2-year school that you took 20 years to finish, we might need to talk. Okay, Moose? We might need to have a conversation about it. But then again, I don't know what your life is like. A lot of us have crazy, hectic lives, and to be able to finish anything that's that big is pretty freaking cool, unless it's clown school. Are you going to clown school? I'm concerned. Unless it's real estate courses, DeVry online. There's a lot of schools that don't count, is all I'm saying. But the fact that you're close, pat yourself on the back. I just hope that it's not, you going to school to learn how to ice skate. Actually, I take that back because that's an Olympic sport. And if that is your class of choice, I'm happy for you. I'm very excited for you. And as far as you yelling at your dog, look, maybe you can hear dogs barking. Sometimes you got to yell at them. I got 3. We have arguments. We have full-blown arguments. Don't feel bad. We have to lay down the law sometimes. We have to lay down the law. If you got dogs, sometimes they don't know what they're doing is bad. They go out in the street, they go after cats, or they go into the woods. They're your children. You got to yell at them. And your dog chases a cat to the street, and then the cat gets away because we know how fancy cats are, how sly they are, and your dog gets hit by a car. Well, yeah, you got to yell at your dog. I'm going to yell at your dog for chasing the cat. I'm going to yell at the cat. Cats are such a problem. That's the real problem. Well, I hope you finish your school, even if it takes you 30 years. And I hope it's not clown school. R. Murray says, everything. This is a perfect example of what most people, I think, feel when it comes to pain and guilt. What they feel guilty about is everything. I feel guilty about the type of dad I am, or the type of dad I'm not, or the type of boss I am, or the type of boss I'm not, or the type of person I am. And it's based off of what? What other people think of you? Also, a lot of this has to do with how we were treated as children, what we were told as children, what our parents said to us, the things we heard. So much about how we feel about ourselves comes from how other people treated us and what other people said. And when we become adults, it becomes our job to really discover who we are, what we really think about and feel about ourselves, and what matters to us. Because a lot of times who we are as an adult is based off of other adults imprinting their issues and pain onto us. Our pain and guilt that we carry more often than not is not even our own. It's in fact other people's. And we have to become an adult and learn how to decipher which guilt and pain is actually mine and which is Aunt Carol's. That was one of my aunt's names. Shout out to Aunt Carol. She's dead. Nancy knows what I'm talking about. We got Michael. What's up, Michael? OG. He said, not going to funerals. Yes, plural. Preface, debilitating depression, anxiety played a huge part. Going to funerals versus not going, that's a tough one. Because there is a benefit to a human seeing death, especially the death of someone who was close. I think throughout history, humans have viewed the death of their loved ones in many different ritualistic ways. It's always been some sort of ritual around death. There's always been some sort of ritual around death. And it's an important part of life for the living. I think it's a very vital piece of the grieving process to actually see the person dead. Psychologically, it's an indicator. Our brain can make sense of that. And I do feel that people who experience prolonged grief, maybe a lot of them didn't get to view or see the person die or go to the funeral or experience that necessary rite of passage. I can speak personally because I didn't get to be there for my mom when she was taking her last few breaths, and I wasn't there for my dad. Those are two things that I had huge pain and guilt over. And not seeing that was something that I think definitely inhibited my ability to process grief a little bit easier. I think the other side of it, because I'm constantly searching for meaning and purpose and the positive spin, it's given me a deeper understanding of grief. And it's allowed me to be in it in a way where I can intellectualize it, even though I don't recommend that. I think it's an important thing to emotionalize your emotions as much as possible. But I do feel that because I missed viewing them dead, my mom was in COVID, so we didn't even have a funeral for my mom. We still haven't even had a celebration of life. And my father, we were able to do that. And I can see the differences in how I process each one of their losses, each one of their deaths so differently. So I do think missing a funeral only does a disservice to your emotional passage through grief. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not here to judge. This is the grief and the pain and the guilt that you're carrying. I can say, let it go. Let it go. You know how you can redeem yourself? Go to random strangers' funerals. There's got to be people who die who don't even have guests show up at their funeral. How bad is that? You live a life and no one shows up for your death. I think we should all go and show up for somebody we don't know. Just be there. Sit in a pew. Say a few prayers, even if you're not religious. You can redeem yourself, Michael. The good thing is that people die every day. New opportunities to show up to a random funeral. You might even have fun. The first 3 letters are kind of deceiving, aren't they? You're like, oh, fun, Earl. What? Even the end of the word is like Earl. It's like fun, Earl. Sure, it's fun. Is it? Don't feel bad. MSKAPI. MSKEPI. I can't say that. That I didn't go to my best friend's funeral. He passed away 10 years ago. Well, rinse and repeat what I just said. A best friend. It's also a difficult thing. I think a lot of us don't want to face the truth. And the definitive nature of loss, it's so definitive. It's final. It's a tough thing to face. It also forces us to acknowledge our own mortality and our own existence, and I think that's difficult for a lot of human beings. But there are a lot of really great podcasts and even lectures on YouTube that I listen to about death. Not that I'm obsessed with it, I just think it's interesting. I'm curious about it. Alan Watts has a really interesting perspective and a lecture about death and viewing skulls and talking about the importance of viewing it. And it is sort of a ritualistic expression for human beings, a necessary ritualistic expression for human beings. Being able to view someone die or view someone in their casket, and that experience will allow you to express emotions that no other experience would otherwise be able to get out of you because of the finality of it, because of the definitive nature. And I think it is the one thing that a lot of people have a lot of fear around: dying, what it feels like, what it's going to be like, being afraid of what's on the other side. So I think being able to see someone in their casket that you love gives you a gift. It puts the nail in your own emotional coffin. Some way, viewing someone in their coffin helps you put a nail in your own emotional coffin. It helps you heal. And I do wish I had that with my mom. That is definitely a regret of mine, not being able to be there to hold her hand. Not being able to see her in her final hour. I had to say goodbye to her on FaceTime. We talked about this on the podcast before, and that is just ridiculous. I think of a Ram Dass quote, "We're all just walking each other home." That's the biggest honor we have as human beings. And the best thing we can do for other people in our life is help walk them home in some way, shape, or form. And for ourselves. In a weird way, viewing someone in their final resting place, per se, helps us walk ourselves home in a way. So get out there. Maybe you and Michael should go to a random stranger's funeral. Just show up for somebody. And don't be afraid of funerals. They're fun. F-U-N. I hope that helps. Let's see. Brian Eck. I wasn't good at breakups when I was younger. I could have made more effort and compassion. No one was. No one was good at breakups. When you're young, you're not good at anything. You're good at spending your parents' money if they have it. You're good at kind of being manipulative because you're cute and you're dumb. Other than that, we're terrible at breakups. One kid, I never forget this until the day I die. My mom yelled up to me. Now, this is before cell phones. We had landlines. My mom yelled up to me upstairs. She's like, "Jess?" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Dinner's ready." "Oh, honey, Kevin called. He said you're cut. Do you know what that means?" I was like, Kevin cut me? Kevin Harp from where we went to Salem Elementary in Syracuse, New York, called my mom, let Nancy answer the phone while she was making me spaghetti dinner. And she told my mom to tell me that I was cut. How dare you not handle your own dirty business, Kevin? I loved Kevin. He smoked cigarettes in middle school. I thought he was so cool. You think Kevin handled it with effort and compassion, Brian? It's a core memory. We had spaghetti that night. I'll never forget it. The sauce is delicious. We're eating dinner. My mom's like, so what did he mean you're cut? And I'm like, brutal. Absolutely brutal. None of us are good at it. We got to get better at it as adults. I've had grown men break up with me via text. That merits a ghost. I'm ghosting you on that one. Bye-bye. I don't even know who you're talking to, sir. Who is this? I don't even know who you are. Wrong number. Who dis? I think as adults, we hopefully are better at parting in our relationships. It takes vulnerability. It's very difficult. And some relationships require a longer conversation. People are not good at confrontation, especially when it has to do with dealing with somebody who you were in a relationship with and it being messy. You can't just be like, all right, bye. Wouldn't it be great if you could just be like, okay, all right, bye. This didn't work out. If we could break up as easy as we can return our Amazon purchases, wouldn't life be so much easier? Just have Jeff Bezos deal with it. Return to sender. Full return. Sending it back. Didn't fit. This looked ugly on me. This was rude. Sending back. Returning to sender. No thanks. Dropping him off at a UPS right now. Slapping the label on. I'll even print the label out on my own. We all know how difficult that is. Oh, when you have to print out your own label, you're like, well, I guess I'm keeping these roller skates. I guess I'm keeping them. I can return this. Yes, figuring out how to break up with people as an adult is vital. Please figure it out. Please don't break up on a Post-it like they did on Saturday on Sex and the City. Please don't send a text. Unless they were completely dangerous, then we don't need to say anything else. Nothing. Nothing is what we're going to do. Couple more here. Corey Flandera, not tossing out the container with hardly anything left in it. Oh, come on. Empty the container. Look, if you have food left in a container, give it to your dog. Just make sure it's not anything that makes him sick. Carlin gets, if I have applesauce, peanut butter, even some cream cheese, yogurt, he's getting the container. He's cleaning it out. That dog licks it clean. You couldn't even tell what was on the inside. And I'm not quite sure what you mean, Corey. It's a very random thing. Get a dog. It'll help you clean out the container. Problem solved. Problem solved. We've got to wrap this up because the kids are coming home soon. Let's do one more. Chain gang. Turning off my sister's life support. I know it was for the best, but it still sucks. Man. You know, that's the one thing that I couldn't get home to my mom for. In this weird moment, I feel envious of you. I feel envious that you were able to do that. There's so much honor in that. Even though it probably at the moment, maybe even now for you, is a horrible memory and it's horrific, I think I'm inspired by it. I feel envious, and not in a malicious way or a nefarious way. I don't envy you, but I feel envious of the fact that you were able to be there for your mom in such a big way, in the biggest way. She brought you into this world and you helped her out of it. I think that's a beautiful full circle. I think that's the way it should be. And whether you realize it now or not, that helps you through healing. That gives you so much perspective. And whether that moment you dwell on that moment, or that moment hangs over your head, that's up to you. How you view that moment is your choice. How I view it from this side, I think it's a beautiful thing that you did. I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision. I'm sure you probably felt some regret and were on the fence about it. And I'm sure you questioned if you even made the right choice. I can tell you did. And I can tell you that is such an honorable thing to do and to be for someone. You walked It makes me so, it fills me up with so much emotion. You walked your mom home. And I can't imagine anything more important than that. I can't, because I was an iPhone. I was an iPad when my mom was in the hospital room. No one's paying attention to me. I'm just up. I'm propped up on a pillow at that point. Here I am. I'm like, guys, hey, am I a person? No, I'm an iPad. Is mom still with us? Can somebody help? Can I get a better view? I couldn't be there. I was there as a device. You were there as a human. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's what life is all about. Walking each other home and being there for one another. And I hope you don't carry pain or guilt over that moment. I hope you can see it for the beautiful and powerful and filled with grace experience that is. And you got that. And I hope it helps you on your healing. I really do. And while all of us out there are still probably feeling guilt or grief or pain over things, most of which makes zero sense, not crying enough, crying too much, laughing too much, not laughing at the right time, laughing at the wrong time, sleeping in too much, not sleeping enough, not being enough, wearing too much makeup and not being the right person, feeling insecure about ourselves, going to the wrong grocery store, feeling relief that someone who is suffering isn't suffering anymore. Whatever you're feeling, let it go. Let it go. Because this part of grief is like a drunk roommate who keeps knocking over your stuff and stomping over your boundaries and asking if you're mad at them. Let it go. It's for you to let go now. Pain and guilt, yes, it's a part of love. And feeling pain and guilt doesn't mean that you're broken. You're a human being. These are human emotions. And you're not alone and you're not crazy. For sure. Some of you are definitely crazy. And one day when the guilt fades, the love stays. And I hope you feel that. And I hope you can experience that. And thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. I hope this podcast helped you. And I want to know what the weirdest or most random thing you ever felt guilty about. I want to know what that is. Email me, jessimaepelusocomedy@gmail.com. Let me know what the thing is that you're still guilty and feeling guilty about in your life after a loss, any type of loss. And make sure you guys, if this episode helped you or made you feel less pain in your life, that you share it with somebody. If you're going through loss, I hope that this was a little bit of a relief and relatable episode for you to listen to. And send this to somebody who may still be blaming themselves for something, for just being the worst mom ever. I'm the worst mom ever. I can guarantee you're not. The mother from Mommy Dearest was the worst mom ever. We all know that. The worst mom ever. And subscribe, my grief gang. Subscribe, send it to your friends. Share the podcast. We're all in this together for some unhinged healing. We are all on this grief gravy train together. Thank you guys so much for listening this week. Let go of that grief. Turn that pain into purpose. You can do it. You can definitely do it. Thank you so much for listening.